And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. Vlogcast that comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. Vlogcast started as a combination of spite and the Streisand effect because I am getting really pissed off at the powers that be because the powers that be decide that they're going to use AI, which is all well and good if you're in post-apocalyptic Chicago in the 1970s or 500 years after that, and Captain William Buck Rogers has come back on Ranger 3. It's an old TV and movie reference, and most of you ain't going to get that, and you're better off that way. Part of this is to follow through with the old adage that sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. I'm your main host. I'm known as Shujin Tribble, and you can find me pretty much everywhere under that name. Shujin. Hi. Yeah, I've had an interesting couple of days. Not all of which were good. None of which were like great. But we'll fill you in a little bit more on that in a couple of moments. Filling you in on, however, who was able to make it tonight from the right-hand coast of the U.S. because apparently I was going to say something I'm not going to say. Not because there's anything disparaging or anything. I just suddenly realized I shouldn't say it. Unriddled Tech, good morning.
Hi.
And
was
from
something about we were talking about earlier?
Yes, but just what was spoken about just a couple of moments ago. And from the left-hand coast, where there are no typhoons currently barreling down, to the best of my knowledge, IOCloud has decided that now's about as good a time as any to go ahead and beg for forgiveness from the courts. Hi.
No, Your Honor. I have no clue what happened. I was sitting in the other room, and for some reason, my knitting needle stash just kind of lifted itself up and flew across the room and impaled him about 20 times each needle. I have no clue how that happened, Your Honor.
You know, considering that to the best of my recollection, the fell on a knife backwards in Brooklyn, the current record stands at 14. That's actually pretty impressive. So, that's cool.
Well, actually, I wouldn't do that because I would ruin my knitting tools. And I'm currently working on a sock. I have been trying to get past the toe on a traveling sock because I'm going to be traveling next Saturday, and if I can, I'll be phoning it in.
As someone who has been without a physical relationship for almost 20 years, I could talk about socks. I'm not going to because I don't have anything to talk about. Y'all can go ahead and draw your own conclusions.
Hats, scarves, mitts can all be lost. Sweaters, they get holes, they get worn out, or they can last for generations. Socks are an act of love because you specifically make them so that the person who wears them out. If you're lucky, you can darn them, but the best way to darn them, in my opinion, is to stand over a garbage can and go darn as they fall in.
You could have stopped with socks are an act of love. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Anybody that's been trying to drink and is now choking on your drink, you got what you deserve. So, good to be back with you. Those of you that would like to join us while we're recording, of course, you can be part of the live chat over there because it's a good way for us to prove that, yes, we are actually here, which would be really nice. Stephanie made it this morning and well ahead of us. So, hi. It's good to have you back. I'm terribly sorry to hear that you were having problems with your laptop. For what it's worth, Dallin was also giving us information last night about him and his computer, which upgraded from Windows 10 to Windows 11. And IO memory serves, he said that it lasted him about a grand whopping 30 seconds before he said, I don't like it. Is that about right?
Yeah.
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 Fortunately, I don't have to worry about it because my computer does not meet the minimum specs to move up to 11, which is fine by me.
So the good news on my end is that our new broadcasting computer has got a new hard drive. Windows has been reinstalled, and when we get back from our fun, we're going to be working on it and making sure that it's a perfect computer for doing broadcasts. And
And
my my Apple Watch, yeah, I'm cross genre, which has saved my life twice. Got a new battery, and it's back on my wrist. So I'm a happy, happy IO right now. I'm a happy, 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 happy because my little glitch has saved my life and she's back.
that's good on you. Yes. Um, Io, you should remind everybody what the name of your little wristwatchy is one more time.
Glitch.
It's called Glitch.
And it was glitch years before I met you.
Yep.
See, if I had a smartwatch, I would name it Bit.
Well, see, that's two different genres. Well, no, not two different genres. Still kind of the same genre, two different franchises. That's the word I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I got to say, you know, the little yes, no, no. How about this? No, and he crashes. No. He goes flying around.
Perfect.
I'm sorry, that was one of the most funniest parts of Tron ever.
No,
Whoever came up with that idea deserved like a raise.
Oh yeah.
And I was really hoping that they would have something similar to it in the sequel.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed about that myself.
I know, I was so
Disappointed?
Yeah, I really was. It would have been fantastic.
That would have been an homage to the original bit. Anyway, Glitch is from Reboot. Reboot is Canadian. And I'm Canadian, so of course my watch is going to be called Glitch.
And Reboot is freaking amazing. Oh yeah. So as an aside on that, by the way, Reboot originally came out in the 90s, the late 90s.
Yes.
And it was pretty friggin' amazing because it was a completely fully 3D rendered, we'll call it half-hour cartoon, 20 some odd minutes, 28 minutes, give or take, per episode, and on a weekly basis. And they did it, and it worked, and it was good until they sold it for export to ABC TV here in the States, and they mucked around with it.
Of course they did.
In any case, Reboot over the years has had an incredible following, and relatively recently, the original tapes, because remember, this was not done on film, this was done digitally, so it was put onto effectively videotape, but really good professional grade videotape. They found the original tapes, and then they were trying to find out, how do we better digitize this so that it can be like properly upscaled? Io, how many machines did they have available when they started this project to view these tapes on?
Absolutely nada. Not a one. And I think they had to go to Germany to find a working one. And it was fans of the show that tracked one down. Apparently there was others in Alberta, I think in Calgary, I could be wrong. And yeah, I should contact my friend who used to work there as an animator and see what he knows.
And big time congratulatory shout out to Linus Torvalds from Linus Tech Tips, because he kind of got involved in helping to get machines shipped from the European mainland to the Canadian backwaters, because holy hell, that was expensive. And yeah,
Waters, Vancouver is not backwater. Vancouver is a main city.
all
It
right.
is, mind you, after the plane landed, the trip via car would have been interesting, especially if they didn't have a police escort.
Yeah. So memory serves, they have three. The last I heard, it was three machines that they were cobbling together to make sure that they had one fully functioning one, or minimally two, and trying to figure out how to make sure that everything was within spec, working correctly. They proved proof of concept that they can make it work and properly high def upscale the image quality that they got off of these tapes, which, as an aside, by the way, you'll notice that there is a big difference in the upscaling between, let's say, Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Reboot, because Deep Space Nine was shot entirely on videotape, which was not great. But Reboot, even though it was to videotape, was to really superior quality and resolution videotape. So upscaling Deep Space Nine, not that easy. If you want to see a proper upscale of Reboot, go over to the YouTube page for was it Mainframe? I believe is
Yes.
yeah, Mainframe's YouTube page. The first episode of Reboot in full high def quality is available to watch. And for those of you that are creative, perhaps to capture. So think about that in those terms, because holy hell, what a difference. It really is amazing and just absolutely astounding. So,
Hoping that they not only do this series, they do the couple of movies that happened after,
yeah.
and they do the reboot the ride. Because I believe there was two of them. I seem to remember two, but there was at least one, and it was awesome. It was one of those IMAX rides.
Mm.
So it was a fake roller coaster. There was a place in Vancouver at Metrotown where they had a whole bunch of arcade games. It was called Palladium, which went tits up.
Yeah.
And they had the IMAX ride, and I would specifically go to Palladium just to take that ride because it was fun.
No, I don't blame you. I don't blame you one bit. So, how about we get things rolling and we get on into this, because the likelihood of there being a little bit of yelling and swearing is a little bit higher than I'd like, and I want to try to keep it as to a minimum as I can, because I got enough bile in me right now as it is. So let's do that. But with 5 minutes on the clock, unfortunately, this time your 5-minute freestyle starts right now. ACAB, ACAB. It is an acronym. It is an acronym that I have tried exceptionally hard to stay away from. It stands for All Cops Are Bastards. I don't want to believe that. And I'm saying that in the same kind of way that I would say I want to be a fiscal conservative for government spending. I've said that before. Because I would very much like there to be less government spending. Because there wouldn't be a need to have more government spending. Because the government wouldn't have to be in the process of having to actively police so many different groups with what they do. They actually, properly behaved, you wouldn't necessarily need anybody overseeing them. But then here we are. So we do what we have to do because we need to. And I don't begrudge that. There's a story in the show notes about a police officer who was doubling as a substitute teacher, public school, who decided that it would be in the students' interest to demonstrate some things in police history, shall we say. The video is in the show notes, and I will warn folks that might consider looking it up that it is somewhat disturbing. Recreated for the class what a police officer would do in order to subdue someone by restraining them while the suspect is on their front, on their chest, with their hands behind their back, using their leg as leverage to hold the wrists in place, and the chest down, and the knee across the back of the shoulder blades and neck. This position has caused the death of at least one person publicly. The fact that this event could have very easily have been just a he said, they said thing, and then brushed under the rug, was completely and utterly shattered because good guy students had their smart devices with them, took pictures and video with sound to prove their allegation that this son of a bitch did what they did. Now, my father was a police officer. I have police officers in my family. Not just my direct family, but extended family. We've had Tom Verney on the show before. Previously a police officer, was a detective, has been on CNN on many an occasion to give some ideas as to how to look at, think about what the perspectives would be from law enforcement. The Fraternal Order of Police Twitter account has gone ahead and endorsed the former guy for president. I don't want to believe that all cops are bastards, but my God, you're all making it really tough for me. All you need to do is do the job that you have sworn you would do, to serve and to protect the public to the best of your legal responsibility. But then again, hasn't the Supreme Court gone ahead and said that there is no legal obligation for the police to save and protect the public? Maybe it isn't just the cops that are bastards. Maybe it's the ones who say, oh well, when there's blood in an elementary school. You're all bastards. You know, one of these days, I'm actually going to have a freestyle that's going to be, like, fun, so that we go into the horrible scopes and, you know, we're still continuing to smile. Really like to be able to do that one day. Don't make it easy.
Growl, 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 growl.
Oh, I know.
There is a city near where I live where the cops are being accused of being bastards and being abusive. They killed somebody. From what I understand, it's a Latino homeless kid that was having issues. or it could have just been students, and they went up to City Hall on City Hall Day, and City Hall basically went, whatever. There's been protests, there's been a constant memorial for this person at the transit loop where it happened, and see, I'm the niece of two cops. One of them actually realized he couldn't hack it after a while and became a nurse. And the other one, from what I understood, has either retired at the ripe old age of 65 or whatever. His daughter was unalived by somebody that was having some serious issues. They had the guy within an hour. In fact, they found him at the location. I know so many women that have been unalived, and the cops don't care. You're poor, you're not white, you're not from the rich side of town, you're a teenager, especially, or in your 20s. Yeah, whatever. You're dead, whatever. We don't care.
But when it's
She's
one of
cop.
their own.
Yeah, they were right there.
Yeah.
Now, on the one hand, thank goodness they caught the guy. On the other hand, how about all these women that have been part of the red dress thing? Red dresses hanging all over Canada to represent women that have been killed, missing Indigenous women especially. And the guy basically got a slap on the wrist. And one of my other uncles told me that he had to counsel his son not to get arrested because he had plans on what he was going to do if he got into the same jail. This was a sweet little cousin of ours.
So
School teacher, Catholic school teacher. No kids, one pup,
maybe, just maybe, we do a follow-up with Tom one of these days. If I can figure my way to it, I will give that consideration.
Tom?
Tom Verney, ex-detective, New York City Police. He and I actually, full disclosure, he and I actually graduated from high school together.
Cool.
So, yeah. So let's go ahead, move it along, and we'll kind of go from there, because time for the horrible scopes. If you know what your astrological sign is, cool. If you don't, you can just find a way to figuring it out for yourself. You can ask somebody, or better yet, if you want, you can get one of those cool D12s with all the little squiggles on them. Maybe even a couple of them. And if you want to get them, you can order them from friend of the show, Heart of the Game, Fredonia. They'll be more than happy to sell them to you. Shipping them to you might be a little bit more difficult unless you're in the US, in which case that's cool. Or you can ask somebody to be your D12 mule, I suppose. Check them out there in Fredonia, New York. That's Heart of the Game, Fredonia. Hail, hail, Fredonia. Home of the Blue Devil. Remember, it's the shop with a mimic in the window. Supposed to have a mimic in the window. Unless it is the window, in which case you can just order online and save yourself the problem there. So, yes, there is a theme for the horrible scopes this week, but we'll be damned if we're going to let you know just what that theme is. After all, the last time I told you about the secret message, you had a fun time discovering what it was, right? I'm sure that you did. So, I'm not going to give you any kind of a tell as far as to what it is, but I will give you this clue only. Baseball, bat, religion. And just so that we're clear, you can only ever win this contest once. And that is a reference to somebody who had a trivia question once before, They don't know who they are because they don't watch the show. That's okay by me. Areas. There are stores in the US and Canada called Dollar General who don't have a picture of a general as a mascot, oddly enough. How about you start your own chain of similar stores called Spend-A-Buck, with a pirate as your mascot, drawn in the style of The Scream, named Buccaneer. Yes, this is a Fozzie Bear level dad joke, and I really don't care. It's funny to us. So this week, don't sell a whole bunch of different things in your store, just corn on the cob. Buck and ear. If that's not appealing, you could always just make grits.
Taurus, taking inspiration from that scope, let's get you back into playing video games. War Admiral is an old school terminal window video game played against the computer, very like the tabletop game of Battleship. It used to be an easy enough game to play back in the day, but now that you can fill a 4K monitor with a terminal window, the playfield is huge. So this week, the last known copy of the program was on a BASF audio cassette tape. So if you want it, you'll need to find a way to digitize it yourself.
See, I'm not the only one that says it.
What? The F?
BASF.
Pronounced it BASF yesterday. Oh well.
No, that's nothing wrong with that. I don't know if there is an official way that you're supposed to refer to the company as either BASF, or BASF. So,
well, I mean, if the Electronics Corporation AEG was still around, we could ask them because they used to supply it.
it's all good.
I think.
It's all good.
Now I got to go look at the history. God damn it.
Gemini, it's been 42 years since it was released, meaning it's the answer to everything. Expect to see Little E.T. to be released for a one-night command performance at your local movie theater sometime in early December. It'll be a chance for families to go out holiday shopping but take a break in the middle of the day away from the crowds. It's rated PG, but all things considered, it's still a good family-friendly experience. So this week, if you have kids with a peanut allergy, do not take them to see this movie. They will beg to try Reese's Pieces. Fun fact, M&M's turned them down.
Yes, it's true.
Oh yeah, very much so. And the Mars Corporation ended up regretting it because Reese's Pieces sales, when they is kind of this movie was, in my opinion, Reese's Pieces sales just skyrocketed overnight.
Yep. Cancer
It's kind
Moonshine.
of like, oh, sorry, I was going to say real quick. It was kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy. The prices of getting an old Sony Walkman on eBay skyrocketed.
Yeah, that's assuming you
Oh,
could even find them.
I actually
They're still
I saw on TikTok yesterday somebody had been given stuff from their mother's place, just junk for them to go through, and they found their Sony CD Walkman case, the plastic wrap, shrink wrapped piece of hell that you have to claw your way into. She flipped it around and it still had the original headphones, and she figured out the reason why I still have the headphones is because I only wanted the CD player because I was going to plug it into my car with the tape jack and all that. Yeah, I just laughed. It's like, and I told them, write Marvel, let them know that you've got this because they need it for Guardians of the Galaxy stuff.
Cancer Moonchild. Seems we're just following up on a long train of thought this week. You want to be sure that when you have a child all upset that they can't have Reese's Pieces, that you justify your veto carefully. Don't tell them that they'll get sick from it, because people get well again, usually. Couch it in the form of them needing to get a shot to keep them from being violently ill, going to the doctors, and not being allowed to get a lollipop after, because ERs usually don't give those out. So this week, Yes, there's a story about a kid injecting himself with an EpiPen before eating a Reese's cup out of spite. We're not sure if it's a real story, but do you want to find out if your kid's going to be the one to actually try that? Be careful.
There is a gentleman who works emergency rescue, fire, and all that, and he bases his reenactment videos, his little 30-second skits and such, on what he really sees, because people keep responding to him. It's like, did this really happen? He goes, yes, this really happened.
This
And
is Jason, the bald-headed guy, in it.
yeah.
I love him.
And he did a video where he made a call for a guy whose face was all swollen because he was eating peanut butter, and the whatever it was he was trying to take, it wasn't an EpiPen, it was
Antihistamines.
yeah, the antihistamines. I think he was trying to drink whatever the hell it was, and it wasn't working anymore, so that's when he called emergency. And he goes, you really, you're allergic to peanut butter. He goes, and the guy's response apparently was, yeah, but it's so good.
That said about prawn and shrimp, because I've had prawn and shrimp. It's so good. It's so yummy, but those little red bumps I get are not funny.
You're lucky you only get little red bumps.
Mm.
Leo, in the
Ugh.
in the My Little Pony inspired fan videos of Button's Adventures by Jan Animations, there is a character named Gibson, Button's brother. He, as you might guess, plays guitar in his band, but he's not exactly good. There's a question that needs answering. If he joined the Royal Guards and stayed in long enough, could he eventually be Lieutenant Gibson? So this week, here's a guitar joke for you. By the way, I take offense to this as a guitarist. What's the difference between a guitarist and a vacuum cleaner? When you unplug a vacuum, it doesn't suck anymore.
As a bass player, screw you.
Sorry if the delivery was a little flat.
What do you call the guy that hangs out with the band?
The drummer.
The bass player.
Yep. Drummer.
Yeah, no.
Hey, let's just put it this way. I see the drummers get more action than like the lead guitarists.
Well, it's because of how fast they can move their hands.
Exactly.
Virgo, if you studied earth science and meteorology enough, you'd know that this next term and how it's produced. A hail gale refers to a mid-sunny day phenomenon of a sudden high-speed wind that climbs the sun-facing side of a hill. It's because of this that the placement of a wind farm windmills are congregated on hilltops. So this week, don't believe everything you hear on the internet about windmills. Some of them are fake. This one isn't, but some others are.
So we're not going to talk about drummers and their paradiddle skills, right?
Or tilting at windmills.
Or how well they can work their sticks.
Libra, we haven't given you a language or geography lesson in a long time, so it's time to fix that with a twofer. The term in German is Donau, which means Danube, the second longest river in Europe. We don't think you actually appreciate just how long this river is, though. If you started at its source in Germany and navigated all the way to the end at the Black Sea, you'd pass through Austria, Slovakia, Hungary, Croatia, Serbia, Romania, Bulgaria, Moldova, and Ukraine. So this week, even though the name is shorter, it's longer than the Mississippi. Quick question. How many letters are in the name Mississippi? 4. The answer is 4.
M-I, crooked letter I, crooked letter I, humpback, I.
Scorpio.
Really hate that.
Those
I really
of you who
hate that.
feel Scorpio, for those of you who feel pensive about the answer and think we're cheating, good instincts. But no, we're not cheating. just asking the question in a way that's both accurate but misleading. So try this one on. Why do cemeteries have fences? Because everyone's dying to get in. So this week, that's the good answer. Imagine if the answer was because they were trying to get out.
I used to live near a graveyard.
Hey, it's the most peaceful you'll ever see most of humanity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Except for the one guy who ended up with his grave underneath the highway.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
probably that's a good thing.
yeah.
Sagittarius. If a Scorpio was pensive, we're expecting you to have actual regret for what you're about to get. Just to make you more comfortable, we promise you won't get a dad joke. If you grab an insulated wire in your right hand with your thumb in the direction of the current, your fingers will be wrapped around the direction of the magnetic force. So this week, if you grab an uninsulated wire from the current, gotta try this again. If you grab an uninsulated wire with current in it, you won't be able to let go. Told you that insulation was important.
Yeah, I had to learn about the magnetic flux of wire when I was taking my ham radio exams.
I
Fun.
had to learn it when I was in grade 11 electronics.
My favorite warning about electricity is warning. This will kill you, and it will hurt the entire time.
That's a really good warning.
Yeah.
That's a really good warning. Capricorn. Okay, so we're not going to talk about drummers and beating their skins with their sticks, right?
Hey man, whatever they want to do to their drums is their own business.
I'm just thinking about the trombone players and the way that they can move their lips.
I used to play trumpet.
Woo! Trumpet too.
Capricorn. Okay. Okay, no more jokes. But how about something educational? You might have heard the name Ormakayam, but do you know who that was? First off, that wasn't his real name. That name actually stretches about 18 syllables long, and he made contributions to mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, and poetry back in the time of the Seljuk Empire. So why does that sound familiar? Because of Bill Wurtz's animation, History of the Entire World, I guess. Which actually, come to think of it, I don't know that I put a link to it in the show notes. I need to fix that. So this week, do you know how old that video is? It was released in 2017 and almost popular enough to be cited in a different history video soon, we bet. Go thank him for such a great video.
Aquarius, there are some of you who are cryptographically inclined, and you are my people on this one. Take all the letters in the word bold Forbes and rearrange them in numerical order. Using those numbers in reverse, add two sets of nested parentheses so the outer one has an odd number of letters with an even number on the inner one. Finally, use that as the beginning of the equation, solve for b, then put that in your graphing calculator. Got that? So this week, you should end up with a boy kisser picture display for you. If you don't know what that is, good.
Why do you hurt my brain, Shu?
Because if I have to learn how to play chess in my head, you do too.
Just remember, mathematics is fundamentally mental.
Oh, were you asking about that, or were you asking about the boy kisser thing? Because that's just because.
Pisces! And finally, we know how hard you avoid hard alcohol. But this week, go for gin. There's going to be reason enough for you to have it, and it's not to drink straight. We know you're going to try some of that homemade eggnog recipe again. Make sure you've got enough gin in there to kill off any nasties that might grow in there since, raw egg. So this week, yes, we know it's traditionally rum, but where's all the rum? All the rum's gone. Where has all the rum gone? Where has all the rum gone?
Because there's going to be another Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
Oh, no.
I think so, yeah.
With or without Depp?
I don't even know. And those are your horrible scopes for this week. You like what you got? I don't want to hear it. I also don't want to hear it if you want to complain about him either. Because if you wanted a nicer or naughtier one, you could have done the same thing every week and just asked. Or literally bribed me over the coffee page. Coffee.com/Icarus the Lunar Guard. I'll have these posted online at the end of the week. Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, Discord, Blue Sky. I'm giving serious consideration to finally just once and for all just completely nixing my Twitter accounts and transferring everything over to Blue Sky as I figure out who is on Blue Sky and eliminating them from my Twitter feeds until there's like nothing left. Just a thought. Just a thought. It's episode 513 on the docket, Your Honor. Is that right? Yes, it is. You and what army? Now, I'm entirely certain that I've used this title before. It doesn't change the fact that it's still legit. Because, oh my God, it is amazing what just one person can do when they've got the right gun to use. And obviously it doesn't have to be a gun. It's metaphorical. When you've got the right weapon at your disposal, preferably not a Vespa with a recoilless rifle on it, you can do all kinds of good for so many people. And that's what this is all about. So
Okay.
Yes?
Before we go all hypercritical and stuff, first something good. DeLorean Labs has a contest. And some of the prizes are pretty good.
Not including a Vespa, I'm assuming.
Actually, prizes. DeLorean electronic vehicle. Looks like glasses. Virtual reality glasses, shoes, jackets, a couple other things.
Okay.
Yeah, they have some prizes.
Okay. What's the thing about?
I put the link in the show notes. I saw Doc show up on my feed when I was cruising through YouTube. I watched it. I followed the links. I entered. Yeah. If I win a DeLorean, hey, I'll be the coolest girl around here.
Yes, but no, because I'm afraid that your DeLorean, battery-powered DeLorean, might be powered up by using a recharge with a USB-C. Just saying.
Anyway, I thought you'd like that because Back to the Future, geek stuff.
That's fair.
I just want one of the jackets. I'll be happy with the jacket. Maybe the time capsule, because that's apparently pretty cool. Anything but the Karate Combat VIP pass. No, thank you.
That's fair. So, to remind everybody what kind of precipitated this story, I'd been sitting on the story about how over in Oklahoma, there was a proposal that was put out there to see about buying a whole bunch of Bibles for the public schools. And it was being put out, this proposal was being done by the head of the schools, the Department of Education there in Oklahoma.
Superintendent Ryan Walters.
Sorry, you were cut off at the beginning.
His name is Superintendent Ryan Walter. Let's be very specific.
Yes. Now, the problem with this is that, well, there are many
Well,
problems.
one, it's not a proposal. He made it a mandate.
Right. Now,
Right.
the thing about it is that it wasn't just for any old Bible. There were certain conditions that had to be specifically met. And I'm not going to go into all of the specifics. I will, however, go ahead and say, because of those specifics, there was only one out of thousands of different Bibles, hardcover Bibles, meaning they could be paperback, they could be hardcover, doesn't matter. Physical books. Of the several thousand versions that were out there, there's only one that meet the specific criteria that was being asked for. That's the one that was specifically endorsed by the former guy, Citizen John Q. Trump. And I'm going to call him that because he is currently, and hopefully for the rest of our lifetimes, that's exactly what he will be. John Q. Public.
And by the way, the list of restrictions that narrowed it down to his Bible.
Yes, please be my guest.
Thank you. According to the bid documents, these are the documents put forth that say, if you want to bid to sell us the Bibles, these are the requirements you must meet. Okay. As somebody who used to buy technology for a company, these documents are strict. Unless they actually stipulate leeway for variance.
Right. And reminding everybody, these are make or break. If you do not match one of these, it's out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so according to the bid documents, the Bible needed to meet these strict expectations. Included in the text, it must be the King James Version, which for me is funny because I believe there's 5 or 6 versions of the King James Bible. That the copies include core historical elements of the U.S. educational system. So that means I don't remember that being written in the Bible. Historical elements of, I already got there, including the Pledge of Allegiance, the Declaration of Independence, the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and then to kind of put all the nail on the coffin, the text must be bound either in leather or a leather-like material. Only one Bible meets that criteria, and that's Donald Trump's God Bless the USA Bible. There is no other Bible that includes the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, or Pledge of Allegiance, or even the U.S. educational system elements, because the Bible isn't.
That isn't the Bible.
That isn't the Bible.
Nope.
That's the Bible plus a bunch of documentation stapled to the back end of it.
Yeah.
Or the front. I haven't actually read his version, but I've read 3 different versions from front to back. One of them being, ironically, the King James Bible. Mine being the most recent version of the King James Bible, which, God, I'm gonna have to look up which one's which because I can't remember.
I don't think it really much matters, considering that the King James Bible, the King James version of the Bible, was crafted. Now, let's see how good my memory is on this one.
Well, not by him, but under his authorization, just so you know.
Was specifically crafted so that King James would be able to get divorced and remarried. And there were certain things that he'd be able to get away with doing because of changing a couple of pieces around like that. It was very much not as close to what would be considered the traditional quote-unquote originals I say that very guardedly because who the hell knows? It was a version that was basically changed around in was it the 1600s? I think it was rewritten kind of like in the 1600s, or edited, shall we say, and rewritten in the 1600s, as opposed to going back to all right, no wait, the Torah can trace itself back to what, about 1000 BCE, something like
Don't
that,
ask me.
something like that.
Oh, well, if you just for our audience here, and I believe I put it in the show notes. Let me see real quick if I did. Yeah, I did. Okay. So there is a website called newworldencyclopedia.org, and they have uh, a massive amount of content about the history of the text, the background behind it, translation style, criticism, difference in contents, material, copyright status, literary. I mean, they even go into literary influences caused by this book. So, it's a really good read. I've only read part of it, and I'm going to finish it because it's really cool. Um, but yeah, I recommend anybody going in there, going to newworldencyclopedia.org. Notice it's not a .com, folks. They're not trying to sell you anything. Um, and pull up King James Bible and read up the history on the book. It doesn't give you the excerpts of the Bible. It tells you about the history of it, that it's a political project and so and so.
Yeah. So because of this, and seeing that there is pushback happening by at least one John Q. Public personality, that and in this particular case, it was a one Mr. Joseph White, good guy, Mr. Joseph White, who is pushing back on it, who has filed suit. I don't recall which organizations are helping him out on this one.
Well, right now I can tell you one that's helping them out is United American or Americans United (AU). They defend the separation of church and state because they believe that all Americans should be free to practice any religion that they either believe in or to not believe in any at all. So they're protecting both sides. They're not protecting just atheists. They're protecting um, Christians and Catholics and Jews and Protestants and Muslims and all of them. He's protecting everybody that has a religion, and they are trying to protect everybody that has a religion and everybody that doesn't,
Which is
which to
cool.
me is noble.
Yes.
And they're actually hosting, and I also put that link in the show notes. They're hosting the PDF copy of the actual complaint, and I have it open. And by the way, one of the first names of the petitioners is actually a reverend. So there's at least three religious leaders who are protesting against this mandate by the superintendent.
Good. Good.
Oh yeah.
As
What's
they
the
should.
guesstimated cost of the total amount of Bibles?
Well, the Trump Bible is selling for roughly $55 when you can buy a Bible for $3.
Well,
So that's one of the stupid things about it that they're upset about
well,
Yeah,
because it wastes
but
taxpayer money.
how much would it cost in
I
order
I
to?
got you. I got you covered. I got you
Mhm.
covered because according to the write up on this, they were looking at spending $3 million in order to buy these. I'm going to call them Trump Bibles simply because it is the easiest way to explain what it is that we're talking about. $3 million for 55,000 Bibles, which comes out to a cost of about $54.50 per Bible. That is an exorbitant amount of money for any book.
Yeah, it really is. And those $3 million, as we were positing, that's supposed to be school resources. That could be spent on food, that could be spent on paper, that could be spent on crayons, that could be spent on upgrading technology in the schools. That could be, heck, um, there are some schools that teach, um, you know, uh, what we would call, what society calls blue collar job skill sets. So an example of that would be welding, and our country does need welders. Welding is a very lucrative business. Electrical engineering, mechanical engineering. That $3 million could go a long way to teach a kid who maybe they're not very good at, a whole bunch of the advanced courses, but maybe they're really good with engines and they want to become a mechanic. So
Yep.
this is money wasted when anybody can go down to your local dollar store and, well, I'm not sure the dollar store has it. That came into my mind because of the horrible scopes. But I know that there are Bibles that are sold for around me. There's you can get them for as little as $5. You can spend $1 or get the free PDF online and print it out yourself.
See, that was
I
that
feel
was that
bad
was
for
one
your
of the
printer.
things. Yeah, that was one
Yeah.
of the things because you could get a free one. There are
Mhm.
plenty of ways that you can get them, including, amongst other things, the Gutenberg project. Um,
Yep.
we should put a link to that in the show notes also, because the Gutenberg project um, will allow you access to hundreds upon hundreds of free and public domain um, pieces of literature, technological writings. I mean, there's so much stuff, it's not even funny. And it's just,
I put the link in the show notes.
okay. And it's just simply
Guys,
freely available. Yes.
all these sources of Bibles are wonderful and all that, but that $3 million that could be spent on
Oh, I
the
got that.
Trump the Trump
Yeah.
Bibles could be better spent on, ooh, I don't know, lunches and breakfasts for kids to make sure they're not going to school hungry and can actually sit there and learn.
Now,
Wait
see,
a
I
minute.
got you. I got you.
How
I
long
got you
you been in the
covered.
U.S.? Haven't you figured out yet that according to politicians and hardcore evangelical, not necessarily the flock, but some of the religious leaders, think that the money would be better spent on a Bible than food. I mean, look at all those.
Well,
Look at all those times that they've sent, the missionaries overseas to countries where people need food and medicine. And what is the first thing they hand them is a Bible. And they're like, well, if you want a meal, here, read this and have a prayer with us. It's like, wait a minute, what? There's a
well,
condition behind the food? That's not a gift.
well. I've
Oh,
I've got you.
I,
I've got you
I
covered.
I've been homeless. I've had to go to places that were essentially church organized where they prayed over you before you could eat.
Yeah, yeah. I can't
Oh,
can't tell you what kind of level of bullshit that is because we don't have nearly enough time for that. However, like I said, do have the numbers for you because I ran them. I did homework again. I did math. So according to what I could find 2 years ago, if I remember the numbers correctly, in Oklahoma, in the public school system, there are statewide 658,323 students. Now, again, this is a number that I was able to find for 2 years ago, not this year. And I'm going to use that as a baseline number for the moment, just because it was the easiest number for me to find. If I'm off by a couple of students, it's really not going to make any kind of a difference when we're talking about the numbers this large. Because $3 million spent across those 600,000 students comes out to about $4.50 per student, which, depending as to what school district you're in, it could be 2 lunches, it could be 3, it could be 1. Depends on the school district that you're dealing with. But yes, it's not a lot of food. But then again, I would be hard pressed to not believe that the schools are charging without a profit margin on food. I can't prove it because I have no idea how much the stuff actually costs or if they're actually selling it at cost. I don't believe so, but still, that's one school lunch or breakfast or two. That could be conceivably one day's worth of food for the entire student body. But here's the kicker. The thing that pisses me off to such a degree. I can easily see the argument that, well, they're only going to eat the food and it's good for them for a day. But if they have a book, an actual solid book, that will last for years. There is an argument to be made there. To paraphrase from Nick Fury, it is a dumbass argument, so I'm going to choose to ignore it.
Yeah, I mean, look, if they were trying to mandate a book that taught basic life skills, that was a collective works of everything from how to sew to how to clean, how to do various forms of very basic home first aid, like how to clean a wound, that you've got to scrape because you cut yourself with a stick or a knife or something like that, and little things like that, how to recognize certain car sounds that require a mechanic to address, little things that make a big difference, how to do laundry, how to basic cooking techniques, you know how to purify water in the event of a water crisis, especially for areas of the country that are prone to things like hurricanes and tornadoes and such, where after a disaster rolls through, pure water is very hard to come by until rescue arrives,
True.
and so on. I could understand something like that at that point being even an option, let alone a mandate. I could understand it as a, hey, this is a recommended, coursework for optional work. Like, for example, my high school offered as an optional course for a credit, and it was half a year. Was typing, learning how to type without touching the keyboard or looking at the keyboard, and uh, gaining accuracy skills because computers are everywhere.
Sure.
You know, that's a life skill. Um, so I could understand if it had been something like that, but a Bible does not teach those things. Okay, and I understand the whole concept of nurturing a soul, but that's the job of religious organizations, religious leaders, and family members. That is not a job for the school. Our government has laws about this. Our society as a whole has agreed to these laws. And while laws can be changed, this is not something that should be changed because we've seen what it does in other countries. It does not help, it hinders. And by the way, there are many school systems that offer courses as options where you can learn about various religions and cultures as a study setting, not to learn to become one, but to understand your fellow human being. And I, I, I actually do think those are good ideas because the more we understand about our fellow human beings, the more humane as a whole, not everybody, but as a whole, humanity becomes. And so if you understand why that classmate of yours has to abstain from certain foods and why they pray with their head down or they pray over every meal or whatever, you're you understand that this is coming from something very spiritual and very dear to them. You're It's a little bit of understanding, a way to meet across the aisle and say, hey, I don't believe what you believe in, but I respect your choice, and those kinds of understandings and compassions can be that. I don't respect religions as a whole because I think they're all manipulative. But I will this this is extremely manipulative. This is wrong on so many levels. And it's not just that. The superintendent himself, as claimed in the complaint, um, has told repeatedly he threatened teachers and school administrators with quote unquote serious adverse consequences, including the loss of their jobs if they fail to comply. This is the very definition of compulsory, that which our law says illegal. He has performed an illegal act. His mandate is illegal. And he opens himself up, as well as the entire school system, to huge lawsuits. And those lawsuits, whatever comes out of them, they're going to be paid by the public.
Yeah. There is a piece about that says something about him having opted to purchase it himself with his own savings. I find that one a little bit difficult to swallow, but be that as it may, I do want to point out, Stephanie has pointed out over here a couple of items. Thought the Torah went back to 600 BC. I do not recall how far back. I just remember that it easily predated what is considered zero, the supposed birth of Jesus. King James reigned 1603, 1625. So yeah, rewriting it sometime in the 1600s. Yeah, that sounds about right. And did also point out, I have spent more on a book. They are very specialized books, and not religious. I kind of misspoke. So, thank you for that one. I should have said $50 is an outrageous sum of money for a recreational reading book, as opposed to an educational reading book. Don't get me wrong, physical educational books that are like $200 at a university, that seems, I believe the expression is excessive to me, but at the same time,
Especially when it's written by the professor himself or herself.
that's a whole other thing right there.
That's another show.
Yeah. Now, one other thing, and then Io, I'm going to pull you into this whole thing. One of the other things that was mentioned in the suit and such was that this was specifically going against the Oklahoma state constitution. In the Bill of Rights of it, which is Article 2, Section 5, the section that says public money or property use for sectarian purposes. It is linked in the show notes already. I quote for you. Quote, "No public money or property shall ever be appropriated, applied, donated, or used directly or indirectly for the use, benefit, or support of any sect, church, denomination, or system of religion, or for the use, benefit, or support of any priest, preacher, minister, or other religious teacher or dignitary, or sectarian institution as such." End quote. That is specifically in the show notes for you. Meaning, this guy's going completely against the state's own constitution, which means when it goes to trial, and we know full well they're going to bring it to trial, they don't have a legal leg to stand on against their own state's constitution, never mind the federal Constitution and First Amendment. Io, have at batting this guy around a little bit. Go right ahead.
No, you two are doing fine. I'm completely behind you. Religious education should not happen during school hours, nor should it happen after school as well. Saturday and Sunday, that's different, but it should not happen at publicly funded schools. Privately funded schools, that's different, but publicly funded schools should not be allowed to do that. Now, if it's a private school that accepts public funds, then it should also be part of the cannot have it there. That's just my opinion. There's better things to spend money on, like lunches, gym programs, so physical education programs, health education programs, life skills education programs, sex ed programs, cooking programs. Shall I continue?
Yeah, it's
There's
amazing.
so many other things that they could be spending the money on. And I'm not even talking about the welding classes or the other blue collar worker classes.
The life skill stuff.
Yeah, just to be able to deal with your taxes and why you should be paying taxes for that matter. Why you should have a bank account. How to sign a check. I know we don't have checks that much anymore, but we still get checks. And there's so many skills that need to be taught. Hell, they could bring back driver's education into the classroom again. Oh, I don't know, gun safety into the classroom. There's so much other stuff that they could be teaching other than Bible and
Oh,
religious
I
studies.
would laugh if some school institution said, "Oh, we're going to teach gun safety, but we're going to teach the abstinence-only method, meaning if you see a gun, don't touch it. End of story. Have a nice day, folks."
Ooh. Okay. Okay.
That would really piss off them.
There
Okay.
apparently there used to be education classes for kids for guns. You bring your gun to school and we will teach you how to properly care for it and all that.
Well,
Mind
I don't
blown.
recommend that.
This is back in like the 50s and 60s, boomer
Oh,
time.
okay. Yeah, different times.
Yeah, shortly after the war, when there was so much more um, active
Reason.
knowledge of how
You know,
weapons worked.
my son's school actually, I was really jealous when I found out what my son was telling me about what he was learning. My son's school actually taught the kids about being fiscally responsible, how to manage your money, how to the importance of savings accounts and checkings accounts and credit cards and loans and mortgages, income tax, filing things, and so on and so forth. And he was greatly enjoying it. And I'm like, man, I wish they had taught me that early on. But I want to sidestep this teaching into something very important that's in the complaint that was filed with the court. Is that of the people that were filing, one family is filing on behalf of their child, and one of the both parents are listed as being members of their Presbyterian church. However, they list their child as by initials only as being an atheist, and how their faith community values inclusivity and respect for others with differing viewpoints, that they strive to give their child religious or not religious, give their child the freedom to explore religious and non-religious beliefs without pressure from authority figures. And they believe that by forcing this one version of this one Bible onto their child, that not only will it cause their child to resent authority figures, which will hinder the child's growth and personal growth and self-reflection, but that it promotes one particular faith and undermines their efforts as adults, as parents, uh, who support their child's exploration of religious concepts, and that it undermines them because it's up to them to direct and influence their child's moral and religious training, not the schools. And these parents are absolutely correct.
By the way, I just did a little quick search on something. The number of again, this is going back to 2022's numbers.
Oh, by the way, one of these parents is a teacher in the school district being affected by this Bible mandate.
Okay. So again, reminding you that we're looking at numbers from 2 years ago. So I'm still staying with the same number set that we had before. If we go with just the high school seniors from 2 years ago, and again, these numbers have probably switched around just a little bit. Number of seniors, 45,130. If you were to instead take that $3 million and invest it in them, that comes out to about $66.50 a student. How much do you think it would cost per student for a get everyone registered to vote drive? If we're looking at just a single outlay of money, a one-time shot, funding one day of food, okay, that is actually pretty good. Don't get me wrong. It's better than nothing. But getting students registered, because theoretically, you can keep registering fairly easily for the remainder of your life. But it's that first time to really get things started. $66 a student to make that happen? I think that can be done. You want to invest in your students' well-being? Like I said, there are easier ways of doing this.
By the way, one of the other people in this complaint is, and I want you to listen to me very carefully here, is a registered member of the Citizens Potawatomi Nation, a federally recognized Native American tribe. Now, before everybody goes, oh, the tribes don't pay taxes, this person actually does pay taxes. They pay taxes to the state, including income, general sales tax, motor fuel tax, motor vehicle taxes, and insurance taxes, as well as local property taxes, because they're not on a reservation. Okay.
Okay.
This person is also a member of the LGBTQ plus community because they are of that. And one of the things that, as a Native American, is especially fearful about this Bible education mandate is it reminds the person of the history of forced religious proselytization, forced religious beliefs of Native Americans in boarding schools in Oklahoma, and that it threatens
Yeah.
a revival of such practices. And they object to their taxes being used to buy a book which is very, very, very anti-LGBTQ plus, which is a detriment to their family as a whole. So
And yeah, we also do remember that not too very long ago, we were talking about those re-education camp schools. I can't think of a nicer way of putting it, that were happening on the north side of the border in Canada as well. So, yeah, shades of this whole goddamn mess, right?
Yep. And every teacher in this complaint is pointing out that they feel very threatened by Superintendent Walters' repeated warnings that teacher and school administrations will face negative consequences, including loss of their jobs. They're actually afraid that this superintendent will have their licenses revoked, their teaching licenses. To a teacher, that's like being put up on a cross.
It's
Yeah.
worse than that, because
Yeah.
that takes away the certification that you need in order to be a professional in the realm of education. If you ain't got
And
that, you're done.
yeah, and last I checked, if you want a teaching license and you're practicing mathematics, and you get your license, you're licensed to teach mathematics. They're trying to get them to teach something that they're not practiced and licensed to teach in the first place. And a lot of these teachers have pointed out in this complaint that their classrooms are very diverse. Their classrooms have students of various religions as well as various non-religious backgrounds, including agnosticism and atheism, and that they work very, very hard to make their classroom environments welcoming to all students, and that this will alienate students, creating a very hostile study environment.
Oh yeah.
and that these teachers are being forced to choose between preserving their teaching license or following their conscience. Now, I want you to understand, I really want to bring focus to they have to choose between their job or their conscience. Last I checked, I don't see a whole lot of preachers going through that problem too much. I don't see the government coming in and going, "Look, we know you teach Mormonism in this in this facility, or Protestantism, or Catholicism, but if you don't teach uh, the origins of the universe according to science, which look, science doesn't know what happened before the Big Bang. They speculate, and they even admit it because it's the truth. It's fact, I should say." Um, the religious community would lose their collective minds if the government tried to step in and do something like that. This superintendent is basically doing the inverse of that. No offense, but this guy needs to get his head out of his ass.
As it's fair. It's fair. The and just to make sure that we're clear on this whole damn thing, we also want to remind everybody, science has also specifically said, and I'm paraphrasing here, the question of what happened before the Big Bang itself is a nonsensical question. It's equivalent to saying, what is more north than the North Pole? Now, I'm just putting that one out there because when I heard about this one, I was, my head was totally blown for a good 10 minutes because I'd never had this put to me before like that. So it was one of those things I giggle at because it's like, oh shit, I mean, yeah. Wait.
If you want to hear something really interesting, science is still studying gravity.
The
thing that keeps us tethered to the planet. And there are hypotheses, not theories, because theories are proven. Hypothesis is what the layman refers to as a thesis, a theory. When your layman says theory, it's completely different than when a scientist says it.
Right.
And I had a science teacher drill that into us because he used to absolutely hate hearing, well, it's just a theory. And it's like, a theory is proven, you dolt. Anyway,
you have a guess.
Yeah. A hypothesis is, well, I think this happens this way because of this, that, and the other thing. If I can prove it, it becomes a scientific theory. So there are a lot of hypotheses about uh, what we know to be gravity that are contradictory towards what we currently have as a theory of gravity. And some of them are close to proving things. Now, by close, that does not mean tomorrow we're going to hear a different theory of gravity. Close can mean in 100 years we'll have a new theory of gravity. Because the first theory of gravity took a very long time to make. But and it may never come true either. It may never happen. They may just end up reinforcing the current theory of gravity. We don't know until they continue with their number crunching and their um, data virtualization models and such with computers and everything else, especially as technology advances. Because as technology advances, so does our scientific understanding of reality around us. Um, but yeah, I mean, I can't imagine going to a sermon and then having a government official walk in and go, by the way, you need to teach them string theory while you're here talking about the Bible. Oh my God, they would lose their minds.
Yeah. To that end, I want to pitch this one over to you because I think that you might kind of have a minor brain aneurysm with this one. One theory of gravity that has to do with the concept of dark matter. Don't worry too much just yet. Is that dark matter isn't really a thing, and that what we are actually experiencing, that we are calling dark matter at the moment, the collective hold on force, is actually gravitational effects that are invading our universe from another one parked right next to ours. meaning that there are things that are exuding gravitational effects from one universe across into ours, and they just happen to be right next to each other, and that's the effect that we are calling dark matter currently. Question.
Oh boy.
Where in the Bible does it have any explanation whatsoever of the gravitational effect of matter on space-time?
You're asking somebody who hasn't read the Bible about space-time questions within the Bible.
In that case,
Leave me alone.
you are you
Leave me
are
alone.
perfectly educated enough to answer that question.
My stupid guess is nowhere in the Bible.
See, I knew you'd come through. I knew you'd come through.
Like I said, I was raised by a Baha'i nut bar. Yes, we had the King James version in the house. Yes, I could have grabbed it and read it at any time. I usually just grabbed it to double check whatever quote that was in the Baha'i papers that I was having to read for Baha'i school, Baha'i religious school, in order to confirm that that's what it said. We didn't have the internet then, so I use my resources.
Yeah.
So
And
I have not actually sat down and read the Bible. I've read little parts here, little parts there. Oh, what do you mean there's fisting in the Bible? I need to read that part. Ooh, there is. The Song of Solomon. Oh, this is hot stuff. Woo. But
yeah,
anything other than a children's quote Bible that my mother's friends' kids had big pictures and all the stories condensed into one or two paragraphs and not all the stories. No, I didn't. I have never actually read the Bible.
that's okay. You're not missing out.
Holy shit.
What?
I was just going through more of the complaint, and one of the parents who's filing the complaint on behalf of their child stipulates that their child was traumatized in the past by religious proselytization that disapproved of their child's decisions and identity, and is afraid that presentation of the class Bible in the classroom, which contains similar teachings to the one who was used against her child, will revive that trauma and interfere with her child's ability to focus on other schoolwork and burden it imposes a burden on said parent to address the revival of said trauma.
And
That's a real thing.
could also be used as justification for, I'm going to use the word, although I don't know what the right word would be in this situation for the magnitude, bullying, to put it
Yeah.
mildly. It'd be an excuse.
Okay,
the way-
grade 6, 7. We were reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and we got to the part where Aslan was sacrificed on the table. I had no clue that that was an allegory to Jesus's crucifixion. I didn't understand that. I was the only kid in that class that had no Christian background whatsoever. Even the child that had, is it Bharat now? Because they changed the name of India. Even the child with parents from India, she had more education about the Bible than I did and could make the correlation between the temple, the stone, and what happened with Jesus, the entire walk with Aslan, and what happened with Jesus. The teacher just kind of looked at me like I was nuts. Like, I'm not a Christian. I'm a Baha'i child. I don't do this.
And I've
I was bullied.
yeah, I've never read it. I've never seen the movie. I know nothing about the story. Literally, I know nothing about the story.
It wasn't the movie, it was the book.
No. I mean that story, whether in movie form or book form, or even like a condensed, like a synopsis of, I literally know nothing about it. So yeah.
I like this parent. This parent points out in the complaint that while she strives to teach her own children who are attending the schools um, the importance of consent in sexual settings, in which case one of her child is artistic, by the way. Um, the Bible represents religious endorsements of rape, incest, and sexual violence, and thus undermines her efforts to teach her children the importance of consent.
which is true.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. Let's
Well,
remind everybody that there is
Yep.
the thing where father is made drunk so that could impregnate daughters who have sexual congress with him while he is passed out drunk.
or come have my daughters.
By the way, the
I'm a good host. Go ahead, have my daughters.
Hmm.
the complaint points out that these children and these teachers are not part of charter schools. That this is public schools.
Yeah.
Charter schools are a whole nother kettle of fish when it comes to this stuff. But it's a public school. These follow under federal regulations as well as state regulations. And both state and federal, they're they've got these rules that everything about this mandate breaks illegally.
Yeah. So this is one of those times where I am kind of glad that it's not something that the Satanic Temple not just needs to get into, but can get into. Because this puts it all into the realm of the freedom from religion, the ACLU. I mean, this one is a slam dunk. This
Is the Satanic Temple even involved in this?
no, that's the point. This is one of those things that not only do they not need to be part of, they can't, because to the best of my recollection, the Satanic Temple only has their tenets. They do not have a quote unquote bound a bound book Bible, and I'm using scare quotes for the word
Well,
Bible,
they
a
don't
religious text that way.
they don't need that as an excuse though to become part of it, because if you remember correctly, what happened down in Orange, I believe it was Orange County, Florida. Well, it happened in Florida. I just can't remember which school district. Some idiot mucky muck, I don't know if it was a superintendent or whatever, but he invited uh, a man of faith to come in and hand out Bibles to a group of kids, to all the kids in the school who were forced to be in attendance in the auditorium and receive the books. And the Satanic Temple and other organizations said, look, you can't do that because that's promoting only one faith, and that is illegal under the law. And the idiot thought he would get around and say, well, if others want to present their religious text, let them. So the Satanic Temple said, sure, okay, if we can present religious material, we will too. And they presented the children's satanic coloring book, of which I still have a copy of the PDF.
Yes,
It's
so do I.
absolutely amazing. I highly recommend people buy a copy of the digital format, because it helps the attorneys fight the good fight. um, and once those pamphlets started getting handed around, because when it first came out, they made the PDF free for anybody who wanted to print it out and send them out.
Got mine.
Yeah, that's how I got mine. I got mine for free, but I made a donation later on just because I read the coloring book. I actually sat, looked at it, and solved the problems and everything else. The little puzzles and such, and I couldn't disagree with the messages that were in there in terms of inclusivity, understanding, compassion towards others, and respect for people of different beliefs and such. That's why I made the donation. I can't say everybody else would do that. But once they did that, the idiot guy involved in that district or whatever, he said, nope, no religious materials. The government's right. We won't do this. And they could easily come in and say, yeah, look, we have our own material and they're ignoring us. This is promoting one faith over all. And they could easily step in. But I think with what's going on right now, I think they're kind of keeping everything close to their hip and seeing if they have to step in. Because there's a lot of big groups right now involved in watching how this complaint gets handled. It's been requested that the complaint as filed is requesting, immediate review and the attention because it's filed at the Supreme Court of the state of Oklahoma. That's the highest court, if I remember correctly, in the state of Oklahoma. And it it's basically like an emergency petition, if you will. So I don't think they feel the need to step in just yet. But if things start to look sour, I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
Unfortunately, I did double check it. According to their webpage, thesatanictemple.com, from one of their FAQs, question: do you adhere to the Satanic Bible or have any books that you recommend? Their answer is: the Satanic Temple does not have any sacred book or scripture, and we do not adhere to the Satanic Bible. We do have a suggested reading list that provides some illumination on the philosophical origins of our beliefs, and they have a link to their library webpage. So they don't exactly have something to go with, but be that as it may.
Yeah, but they haven't had to do that before. They haven't had to make they have never needed that they have their own religious text as an excuse to fight this kind of fight.
True. And as Stephanie is pointing out, the Satanic Temple do not want to divert attention. And perfectly reasonable. Why should we get involved when you guys are going at it? Cool, that's fine. We'll be happy to sit back and watch you guys go ahead and duke it out, because this is going to be fun to watch. Where's the popcorn?
Now,
Recording it, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
And talking about all this, I remembered one of the assemblies that I had to sit through in grade 10, 11, or 12. I think it was 11, could have been 12. It was up with people. There's supposed to be a very, very upbeat musical group that's supposed to get the youth of the world up and going and wanting to be part of the community and helping. Well, I was having fun at this assembly and I was enjoying it, and all of a sudden they started doing Jesus songs.
It's one of those.
I sat down. I've been going through both the Up With People org and the Up With People Canada sites, and I can't find anything that says that it's Christian. It's supposed to be non-denominational. That still could technically be Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was forced to sit through this. This was just one thing. At that point in time, I kind of said to myself, if we ever have one of these assemblies again, I'm skipping it. And apparently I skipped out on a really good one that had Clannad music. My girlfriend told me about it. I really loved Clannad at that point in time. But sneaking religious stuff into schools is a bad thing. Because you don't know what religion little Joey over there is part of, or little Jenny, or little Jean, or little whatever. You don't know what religion they are, and you might actually be offending them, and they'll go home and tell their parents. Or they'll be too scared to tell their parents because of the uproar that has happened before.
And let's remind everybody, the entire reason for doing this is the same reason why you teach kids their multiplication tables. The same reason why you teach them how to identify written letters and then to identify them into written words. into written concepts because it becomes, I'm not even going to say second nature, but first nature. And I'm going to say that because when have you ever looked at a page of text in a language that you understand and not inadvertently read pieces of it? It's not like you can even turn that reaction off. You just look at, and you are already primed to read. And if you can instill that in the youth early on and get that, for lack of a better way of putting it, branding it into their subconscious,
Yes.
then it becomes second, almost first nature, because it's put in such an insidious early draft of the brains. That's what makes this the absolute worst.
It's
disgusting on a level that I can't even find ways of conveying.
We've got a movie poster here. I don't know how many times I've read it. My eyes flick to it. I start reading the entire thing. Calendar. It says, "Let's summon demons." Thank you, Chubblegum. Again, I read that instantly. I flip to a page in Discord or Chrome or whatever, and I read everything on the page, even just a quick scan.
Because that's how
Yeah.
we are.
That's how we are. Yeah. There are books across the way from me that I can't quite make out the titles from where I'm sitting. If I was closer, I'd be reading all of these books.
Yeah, just
All
by
from the same.
glancing.
And they're all from the same author. Thank you, Father Love.
All these fucking decades later, if I hear "May the Force be with you" in my head, I still have the Catholic response wanting to bang around in there just a little bit. It's far weaker than it used to be, but it's still in there. And those of you that are wondering, the Catholic response, what are you talking about? The Catholic response to "May the Force be with you," the response, because of that cadence and because of that combination of words and sentiment, the correct, quote unquote, Catholic response is "and also with you." If you have never seen a Catholic Mass, Dowlin's talked about this because he did not grow up with this. When he went because of, I forget, it was a wedding, funeral, I think it was a wedding, the first time that he ever experienced a Catholic Mass, he said it was unsettling with how everybody was just so robotic.
Yeah, it's really unsettling.
It really
really is. And it can be extremely depressing too. So if you think about taking all these kids who are, their hormones are raging, they're learning new things, and you sit them down in front of a book that teaches them rape, sexual assault, incest, and a bunch of other things.
and
Murder.
let's not forget rape, incest, that you can buy women, you can have women because you are male, and that masturbation and the spilling of seed is a sin and wrong. That's an important part right in there.
Yeah, you're shaming them. That never goes over well.
No.
No,
Nope.
it doesn't. Shaming a student in front of other students never goes over well. It does not cause them to grow to be a better person. It causes trauma, childhood trauma, which eventually, if the child becomes an adult, if untreated, can result in many other problems: depression, anxiety disorder. It can cause them to become, go on, become criminal, many other things.
You
You know,
About about
as
hold on,
mentioned
no,
by
no, no.
many psychologists,
Hold on
I
a
should
second.
say.
There's something that you just said that I didn't even think about.
Hmm. Childhood trauma.
No. If they become an adult,
Yep.
I didn't even consider that part. That there is
Think
a
about it.
non-zero possibility that these kids, when exposed like this to this situation, to these teachings, may not themselves make it to adulthood because
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
and the bullies, they look at it as, oh well, we bullied that person. They couldn't handle it. I'm just going to go and talk to the priest and see how many Hail Marys I have to do, and I'll be absolved of my sin, and I can go and do whatever I want again.
Holy mother.
Which, yep. I mean,
Yeah.
here's a very possible, greater than 0% chance of happening. Some student, potentially a male, realizes that they are worth more than the pretty girl, or what they, or whom they perceive to be a pretty girl, not going to assume gender roles here,
Uh,
sitting next to them, forces themselves on that person, and that person doesn't get the help they need, and then unalives themselves, because we can't say other words because of
and we still may
YouTube,
get hit
YouTube
for it.
algorithms, and we
or
still may get it.
or
Now,
or
this
spend
is,
their entire life
yeah,
dreaming about unaliving themselves, but are
mm,
just holding on to reality by a thread, because they know that if they do so, the bullies win, and they don't want the bullies to win.
now before this gets flagged, I do need to stipulate something here. I'm not basing this hypothetical off of just daydreaming or some kind of fantasy. There are many documented cases of people who have unalived themselves, um, because of sexually traumatic events that occurred in their life. And um, when you ask, how can you know this when the person unalived themselves, it's because the parents have gone on news channels, publications, things like that, and have said that the person was in therapy because of the extreme depression and anxiety that said sexual traumatic experience generated. So if you give somebody who is a bad person another excuse to do bad things to people, a validation to their behavior, there is the higher probability that that behavior will continue. Um, Evil people will do evil things, but when you give them a validation to do evil things, it runs the risk of giving them more opportunity or more incentive to do it, despite the fact that we have laws that say is rape is bad, murder's bad, and so on. Again, I'm not stating that by teaching the Bible, the students will commit rape and have all these other things. I am saying that interpretation, even when taught by a religious figure, is in the eye of the beholder. How many times have we seen in news articles of somebody causing either harm of the physical nature or mental or whatever to somebody else, claiming that God told them to do it? Okay. This is a bad idea. Okay. It really is. I understand that some organizations and some people say, I don't want sex education in the classroom because I'm going to, it should be the parents' responsibility. That's an argument for a different day. But if so, then the Bible should not be taught because it does that for them. So checkmate, you assholes.
Yeah. Um,
It's one of the things that drives me absolutely batty about Christianity, especially the ones where
Well, the Abrahamic religions in general, by the way.
no,
Let's not
if
just focus on Christianity, because the King James version, which is the one the Trump Bible is, that's Protestantism. I can talk. That the King James version of the Bible promotes Somebody else say it for me.
Protestantism.
Thank you.
Now, just to let you guys, reminding you, we're getting 5 minutes before top of the hour, so I want to end up wrapping this pretty soon.
you
So,
know,
yeah.
rapists, murderers, whatever, they're in jail. They're never getting out, and they find Jesus. They're born again. Hallelujah! They're going to go to heaven when they die. I hate that bullshit. I really do. And one of the things that happens at Easter time is I tell people, let Jesus rest in peace. He's been a 2,000-year scapegoat already. Just let him rest in peace. Take charge of your own life. Take responsibility for your own actions. Anyway, one of the things I was trying to say a lot earlier is my aunt had a Catholic wedding when I was about 7. Me, the bright, inquisitive, I want to get up and do what everybody else is doing, gets up and starts heading to the lineup for the Eucharist. I have no clue what's going on, and I get grabbed. No, we're not letting you do this. Your mother will kill us. We're not letting you do this. My mother was not allowed to be a part of the ceremony because she had an issue with her younger sister. I was assumed to be a flower girl without her being asked. And she flipped out about it, and she was uninvited to the wedding, but I was allowed to go because Lorna needed to have a flower girl.
Hmm.
And once again, fuck cancer, because that's what got my aunt.
Glad you
But,
slipped it in.
Christian, Protestant, whatever, I can just see the one kid in that school that is not Christian, that's not Jewish, that's not Muslim, maybe not even atheist, just parents haven't really bothered doing any religious instruction at all, or maybe they're from one of the other religions that are out there, Buddhism, Baha'i, Sikh, any of the other religions that are out there. And something happens and it's mentioned that they're not Christian and that Bible is not something that they are taught or have read, and they get bullied. That happened to me, all because of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Student could be to make sure that there is a complete understanding of just how insidious this would be. I could name off a couple of others myself real quickly. Zoroastrian, Jedi. But let's go ahead and make sure the insidious nature of this is fully understood. What if the student, regardless of what faith they follow precisely, is Native American? That they were, once upon a time ago, in their family's history, from a large and proud nation.
Hello, hi.
And what happened to that once proud, large nation in this continent, not in this country, in this continent.
Pretty much every single tribe up into the Mississippi, going all the way up into the cold parts of the north, so Upper Canada, Lower Canada, basically every single tribe was wiped out one way or the other. The remnants that are left, they exist, but trying to get status, trying to get Métis status also is really almost impossible unless you're from Red River, which is a part of Manitoba, and that's not recognized in the United States, Métis status. And
Yeah.
Yes, there are reservations. Yes, there are tribes in the area east of the Mississippi and what used to be Upper and Lower Canada, as well as the Maritimes. But those small reservations, those small tribes, these used to be nations.
Yeah.
They took our children, they took our women, they just killed our men. They took our lands, they took our food.
We need to finish up. Io, if you've got anything to finish that, cap that with really quickly, I'll give you the opportunity.
Let Tech go first, I'm thinking.
Okay. Mine will be
tight.
I'm actually going to read from the complaint. This is probably the section of the complaint that I'd like to focus on here. I want people to understand what the teachers and administrations are facing in this mandate. So on page 35 of the complaint, it states, and I quote, "At State Board of Education meetings and interviews with the media, Superintendent Walters has repeatedly emphasized that the department will strictly enforce the Bible education mandate. For example, at a June 27th board meeting, Superintendent Walters stated, every school district will adhere to the mandate, and every teacher, every classroom in the state will have a Bible in the classroom and will be teaching from the Bible in the classroom." In a July 1, 2024 interview with PBS NewsHour, Walters stated, "If teachers don't want to teach it, they are compelled to teach it, or they can find another job." In a July 24, 2024 press release, Walters stated, "Some Oklahoma educators have indicated that they won't follow the law and Oklahoma standards. So let me be clear. They will comply, and I will use every means to make sure of it." In a July 28, 2024 interview on Fox and Friends Weekend, Walters stated, referring to the Bible instruction, "I'm going to tell those woke administrators if they're going to break the law and not teach it, they can go to California because ... Here in Oklahoma schools, we're going to make sure that history is taught." At a July 31st, 2024 board meeting, Superintendent Walters stated that certain quote unquote rogue administrators had quote come out and said that they're not going to ... teach the Bible because they don't agree with it. And he added, "So now dealing with these districts that want to break state law, want to lie to kids and indoctrinate kids by not including the Bible in its historical context, ... It's outrageous. We will not allow it. So just because they don't like it doesn't mean that they won't do it. We will enforce the law. They will be held accountable." In other words, he's basically gone out multiple times to make sure he is absolutely clear that he will attack our teachers for not teaching the Bible, that he will do everything in his power
and beyond
to, and well, power
and
of the
beyond
superintendent's
because he's trying to do something that is illegal, so beyond his
true
scope.
and beyond his scope to punish anyone of his within the administration and teachers if they don't do exactly what he says. He is on a fucking power trip.
Let's hope he trips and falls.
And you know what?
Yep.
I'm not sure, but I hope somebody looks up to see what faith he is. Because if he's a Christian, he should be teaching the King James Bible. If he's not a Protestant.
Yep.
And you know how I know that? Because when I was a religious person, back when I was a quote unquote born again Christian, my first Bible was the King James Version. And at the church I was at, which was not Protestant, they said, "Oh, we don't use that version here."
Io, a tight anything?
Essentially, if this was Harris's Bible, the news media would be bouncing all over it, going absolutely apeshit, crazy, nuclear, whatever. But because it's the Trump Bible, like all the other things that the media should be going apeshit crazy about, they're just brushing it underneath the rug. It's not that big deal. No, it's honestly not that big of a deal. Bullshit is not a big deal. It's a huge deal. How dare, how dare they try to indoctrinate children? Schools are for learning reading, writing, arithmetic, and all the other things that you need in order to be a human, other than religion. The church, or temple, or synagogue, or whatever. That's for religious instruction.
I'm going to finish this off with one last piece that actually goes to the reason why I wanted to do this in the first place. One name. One person. One person is listed in that news article as having stood up and said, no. That's all it takes. You don't have to be, if you'll pardon me for borrowing from a movie, you don't have to be a superhero 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for your entire life. There just are those handful of moments where one person with just enough bravery realizes what it is that they've got backing them up and says, no, you're wrong. And I've got everything behind me that says you're wrong. Those of you that can do exactly that, I applaud you. I don't have the ability of doing that kind of thing. I tried on at least one occasion with the school district that I dealt with. I tried my little way. Those of you that have been able to push back visibly, good on you. I respect you. I honor you. Those of you that can't, for whatever reason, do not ever, ever think that you are lesser because you can't. Sometimes you just can't. And we have to accept that. We don't have to like it, but we have to accept the reality that some people just aren't in a position to do. Some are. Those of you that are, do what you can. Support who you can. And make sure that the good ideas of how to grow a successful society are adhered to. Because that is how we best teach our children. Not doctrine, but reasoning, compassion, understanding, and ration thought. I could very easily just go on, but at this point, I better stop before I start getting far and away more emotional than what I already am inside. So, everybody, as always, thank you very much for being with us. We hope that you found something worthwhile in all of our perspectives and you got something to think about for the week ahead. Stephanie, thank you as always. Glad you're able to make it. Good luck on the laptop. Things work out well for you, and just have yourself a good week. Io, thank you. Glad you were able to make it. I'll put in a good word with the parole board for you.
Yay.
Thanks so much.
Actually, yay.
Brilliant. Thanks for coming out, hon. And Tech, as usual, thank you very kindly. I really do appreciate it. You take care of yourself, huh?
Yeah, you too. I'm actually kind of happy about this episode and this one. We're not talking about Oompa Loompa Mussolini as the centerpiece.
Maybe just kind of sidelined.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so much of it we can talk about. I think
Later.
I think next episode is going to be an Oompa Loompa WTF.
Possibly and potentially. But as usual, I'm not going to know for a couple of days. Almost a week to where topically we're going to end up. We'll
and
see.
I'll be phoning it in. I will be phoning it in. My other half is taking me on our honeymoon, and we're going to have some fun.
Cool.
Well, you guys have a good night.
You too. So,
and to all our viewers,
stay safe out there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Watch out for, flying pumpkins.
Yes.
Flying pumpkins, random meteors, random cars, random e-bikes. My leg still hasn't healed.
Yeah. So, really quickly to cover that one, this is the time of the year where I remind everybody that some years ago, I used to help out for the New York State Thruway Authority for what was called Pumpkin Patrol, which was to watch the highway overpasses to make sure that no errant kids were lobbing jack-o'-lanterns into oncoming traffic. So if you do find yourself driving at night, please be attentive. If you're going over one of these overpasses and you see some errant youths, you don't have to approach them, you don't have to interact with them, but if you just stop on the opposite side, holding your brakes so that the lights stay on, that can be enough to dissuade someone from doing something stupid. I've seen the pictures of what happens to vehicles at highway speed being hit with one of these. You don't want to be part of that statistic.
It's the same as if they threw a rock.
I was almost part of that statistic when a bucket was bouncing along the highway and hit that. I'm not sure what it is, but it's the thing between the windscreen and the side window. That piece of metal, there's a dent in our car from it. If we had been a little bit faster, it would have gone inside, or a little bit slower, it would have hit the windscreen, one or the other. So yeah, it's terrifying.
The other thing you can do is, and this just comes as a recommendation, is if you regularly travel through an area which has an overpass, just program into your phone the local number for the local police, and save it to your contacts list. A lot of phones even allow you to create that, set it as a shortcut button to your phone, so you can actually just tap the icon and it will dial it for you. I know you can always dial 911, but there's time where 911 has to reroute the call and notify the police in the particular area and such. Whereas if you can get the police of that area directly, you potentially save precious seconds. There's also a non-emergency line that most police stations have. That's also a good one to have, as well.
And item last. I don't believe that it is possible to do. Not in our lifetimes. But God damn it. I want to normalize people being able to say in normal conversations, fuck cancer. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I don't believe that there is a month that it should be relegated to. I will continue to say it because fuck cancer. All day, every day. If you'd like to be in touch with us, of course, contact information is available over there on holycrapthevlogcast.com. Possibly your best way of contacting us. However, outside of that, it's just to swing over to the Discord if you need some help, if you need a voice, if you need someone to listen to you, or you need someone to talk to. Add us over there. We can see what we can do to help you out. Other than that, in the meantime, thanks for being with us. And as always, I wish you all the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. Wish you well. As always, to my wife, Fujin, 19 years plus, and I am still in love. Mwah. Matane Fujin. I love you. I miss you. Dream of me. Till the next time we're together, everyone, as always, good night.